awake? Yes?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, is everybody hungry?
A little bit.
No one's hungry.
I'm gonna do the moderator.
What's up? I'm the moderator.
I'm the moderator to make sure he doesn't get out of line.
All right, well then sit down.
The only reason I came is to protect myself.
And I came to
Charmin to stand over.
I came to make sure George doesn't get out of line. Oh, am I being videoed?
Well, you should do an introduction about the spotlight and all that stuff. Go ahead. All right, Chrissy's not prepared at all, so I'll do that. Go ahead.
Okay, so every month I think it'd be fun to do. Moses is our first spotlight member, so that's like super cool. But I think that every month it would be. So this is kind of like a trial, but it's gonna be awesome because George is here to help. Thank God. But I think that every month at the meetings, it would be great. Initially, I thought we'll just ask questions in the group and he can answer. But this is more fun. So Moses is going to be.
Depends what side of the day you're on.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Moses is going to be questioned by mainly George, and I'm just going to kind of make sure George doesn't get out of line. Sit down, damn it. No, don't tell me what to do.
So, this is Moses. Anybody who hasn't met Moses Cruz, we call Moses the greatest second shooter out there. But he's also a great photographer in his own right. 3 years ago, I met Moses at my first Better Together meeting, which was the North meeting up at Ruby Tuesdays. And at the meeting, he was like, after the meeting, this little young Cuban boy, his man-child, Puerto Rican, comes to me and goes, "Can I second shoot for you?" And I'm like, that's a horrible idea. I hurt my second shooters. I've maimed second shooters. I don't work with second shooters. But he, resilient, kept coming up and saying, "Can I second shoot for you?" So I said, "Whatever, you can assist for me." So I had him come to one shoot, and I threw him to the wolves. He had to do a 14-hour Jewish wedding after dark because it was on a Saturday, in the dark, candlelit, and it was a March 15th. It was today, 2 years ago. And it was freezing out, and this poor kid struggled. I was on him hurry up, do this, do that, and he couldn't. I had a tough time keeping up. His photos afterwards, I critiqued him with his wife there, and tore him apart. And basically, I thought I destroyed him from ever becoming a wedding photographer. But the next day he came back. And then he came back the week after that. And then he shot 8 weddings for me. And then last year I suggested him to a bunch of other people, and they all got him, and they've been using him.
I'd steal him if I could.
He did 30 plus weddings last year, second shooting. He runs his own business and did 10 weddings on his own last year. And he's constantly hungry, and he's willing to work, and I've never met anyone like him who is just willing to bust his ass with a full-time job, with an awesome wife, and so we're here to find out a little more about, there's a lot of us. We're in an industry where there's 4,000 photographers in Essex County. So I want to see what it's like for someone who is kind of getting out of just, I shoot and I enjoy shooting, to actually being a real wedding photographer. So we're going to ask him the tough questions. We're going to really try to see what he thinks, and hopefully I won't humiliate you too much. So this is awkward and there's a light on me, but I like it. It's all good, Katy. So the beginning is boring. I think everyone saw that in Kristen's question that she gave him. So we're not going to start at the beginning. We're going to start at the end. I want to know what... No, it was the question why you got into wedding photography, which no one wants to hear why you got into wedding photography.
Thanks, George.
None of you want to know.
There would be no spotlight.
He bought his wife a camera. She didn't use it. He picked it up. He started photographing. I want to know what your end game is. I want to know, do you want to do this full time? Do you want to, where do you see yourself in 5 years, in 6 years? What do you want to do with wedding photography?
Well, first thing I want to say is he thinks I'm way cooler than I really am. So, anyway, wedding photography.
I think I'm cooler than I really am.
That's
so
true.
Go ahead.
I tend to do short goals a lot more than really long term. So I think eventually I would like to be a full-time wedding photographer. But my goal right now is just to be able to, like you said, I have a full-time job. I work IT for an accounting firm. So I want to just be able to equate my income in photography that I have out of IT, and that way, if I know I can create a sustainable income, I know I can pursue it as a business. I don't want to jump into wedding photography not being able to actually do the business end of it, regardless of being good at the art.
So why wedding photography? I mean, like so yeah, his wife, he bought her a camera for Christmas, she never used it, he's like, I'm gonna use it. Why wedding photography? This field sucks. I mean, the wedding industry is awful. Why did you go this route?
It's like Moses is a celebrity, you know?
I'm totally not even close.
This is good, he needs this, go ahead.
So,
Sweet Moses.
my perception of wedding photography is it's families coming together on what I think is one of the happiest days that a couple has. So you get to experience people at their happiest, and you just get to observe it and capture it.
But what, no, that's a bullshit response that everybody gives. Why do you love waking up and spending 14 hours busting your ass to do wedding photography? And money is a good excuse. You could say that too.
It is, but it's not.
Go ahead.
In the beginning, it's really not a good excuse because you're not really making money. But I genuinely, like me, I was just reading this thing today that said it was saying like, what's your why, which is something that George is really big on. But the first thing it brought up is what inspires you, and it says that in Latin, the word inspire means to breathe life into. So what gives you life? And I just feel really alive when I see people happy, and that's why I stick to my first answer. Like when I see people happy, it makes me thrive. It makes me happy.
So you've been doing this for 3 years now, right?
Yeah.
What's the biggest business challenge you faced so far, and how do you overcome it? Have you overcome it?
I haven't overcome it. The biggest challenge I have right now is trying to get out of the previous price bracket that I was in. And it's tough because I rely very much on referrals. So when you have somebody that you shot for a year ago that maybe they paid $1,500 less or $1,000 less than what you charge now, and they're recommending you to all their friends are coming to you asking for that same price. So the hardest thing to do is to turn away business, but if you want to move up into another price bracket, you have to, and that's what I've been doing now. So I went from last year booking about 50% of all my inquiries to like 5, just because I'm turning down, I'm not budging on my pricing.
So if you could go back time, you go back 3 years, you start your business, what would you do differently? Like, how would you do? If you could go back and change one thing, what would it be?
I definitely wouldn't go into wedding photography as a primary shooter first.
So your first thing was a what, primary?
Yeah, I shot like 6 or 7 weddings as a primary, and those were my first weddings.
What was the problem? What?
Well, at that time I didn't know it. I thought that I was taking the same path that everybody else. Like you just jump into weddings, and eventually you just get better. But there's such a big learning curve, and there's so much to be said for being able to work with, other professionals and seeing how they do things and trying to find yourself. Just by way of learning, like taking bits from everybody. So like George said, one of the things I love to do is second shoot. Last year I second shot 33 weddings. I only had 7 under my business, and I enjoyed it so much. And last year was a huge year for me in growth, just because I got to learn and see other people do things that I didn't even think of trying to do at weddings, or not just the photography side, but the approach, the customer service. You learn all that stuff by second shooting. I wish I would have taken the time to learn that before I offered services to people as a primary photographer. I kind of feel like I did a disservice to them by not being able to offer them what I can now.
We're halfway through, so you can breathe a little bit. How long a big thing people have is, trying to find a style, and there's so much emphasis being put on style, but wedding photography is wedding photography, and it's a little harder to find your style when you just see so much of it out there. How long did it take you to find a style, and do you think, was there a moment when you realized you're still looking for it? I can tell you my answer to your question for you, but what's your answer?
How long did it take me to find a style? I think I'm gravitating a lot more towards what I like, and it only happens with time. I don't know that I have a definitive style yet, to be honest. Like I have things that I like, approaches that I take to the way I photograph and the way that I work. But I think that I'm always going to be kind of like trying to find exactly, I guess my style. I don't know. What's your answer for
my answer? There was a point where I think there's a point where I realized that your work, at least in outdoor portraiture, had transcended even what I do. And I was like, I could start looking at your work and see Moses' photos instead of just a photo with bad actions on it. And there was a point where I actually saw that, and there was also a point where my wife was like, damn, Moses is getting good. And that's when I kind of realized I think Moses is finding his niche. So, what was your lowest point in photography? Like, when like, and we've all been there. We've all had a point where like, we hate this, we suck, I hate my life, I'm done. Have you ever had that? What's your lowest point, and how do you get out of it?
I think my lowest point was my first cancellation. Because to me, a cancellation, and I hope I don't put any bad thoughts into anybody else's head, but to me, a cancellation is somebody saying, we don't think you're worth it. You know, so for me, that was a really tough thing to get past, because I thought, I'm like, I think I'm worth it. How come you don't think I'm worth it? What I'm trying to do right now is be a better salesperson. I know that that's one of the things that I'm not good at. I'm not good at talking myself up. I'm not good at being in public. I'm still shaking right now, as a matter of fact. But that's what I know I need to kind of like get better at to get past that. Like I'm at the point now where I feel like what I charge, I know that I'm worth it. I know the value of what I do. I just have to get good at letting other people, or getting them to see the value in what I do.
Pricing, you mentioned that's a challenge. What advice do you have for people out here? And I know you probably shouldn't be giving advice since you said you're having trouble, but you've been doing this now. Some people here have not been. Who here has been shooting for a year, like as a business? So there are people here that are probably really struggling with this stuff. What advice do you have in regards to pricing, and what would you recommend?
Well, one thing is I don't think you should ever put a price tag on something if you don't really believe that you're worth it. Because your sales game is only going to be as good as what you really believe. I think that's all I got right now.
That's all you can have. How do you respond to people who claim that I can't take a break? I can't get a break in the industry. I can't get anybody to let me work with them. I suck. This is horrible. I'm just going to go shoot on my own. I don't know. And I'll be another crappy wedding photographer.
I mean, it definitely is tough, but breaks don't just fall out of the sky. Like George was saying, I had to ask multiple times, and he definitely wasn't the first person that I asked. Before I got into the BT group, I must have sent out emails to a bunch of local photographers, and I think I sent somewhere around like 40, 50 emails to all different photographers, and nobody responded except for like 2 people who both said no. And I went to a wedding, Inku was there. I asked Inku about second shooting, and he said, well, why don't you just join this group? And he added me to the BT group, and I showed up to the meetings. And I guess the best piece of advice that I could give to somebody is you can't expect a break. I don't think anybody's ever going to get a break. What you have to do is get out there and build a relationship with people and show them how you could help them, and then they'll be willing to help you.
Do you still find it hard to shoot for pleasure? I know people for me, I shot forever and then became a business, and now I don't want to touch that camera when I'm not working. Where do you still fit? How do you get inspired to do more creatively?
I think for me it's a challenge of trying to do, part of it is the challenge of trying to do something someone else did. When I see something very interesting, it inspires me to learn how to do it. But the other part is I want to also try to find a way to do something that other people haven't, or show something that other people don't show. That's really what inspires me to try to keep going. And you can't really do that as a wedding photographer when you're shooting weddings. Like, you're there to provide a service for somebody. They're hiring you to do what you've already done, so you have to 100% deliver that. So I take my personal time to kind of find inspiration, shoot things that I find fun.
That was the wrong answer. Because she's editing this for video, can you now just say your wife?
I love shooting my wife.
Your inspiration's one
That's
word.
That's the part we're going to keep.
So finally, what advice do you have for someone new starting out now? Maybe someone who's here for the first time and they haven't started really shooting yet. They're not actually second shooting at all. What advice do you have for someone who's now getting into the business?
For starting out, just look to build relationships. I mean, there's so many talented people around, especially in this part of the country. It's so saturated with photographers. If you could build relationships with people that are really good at what they do, you're going to grow just from being around them. Like I said, you don't just learn photography. You're going to learn business. You're going to learn customer service. You're going to learn from other people's experiences, which is going to save you a lot of heartache. So, like, it just comes down to building those relationships. To me, that's the most important thing.
Moses Cruz, everybody! And the food is here. Perfect timing.
I never want to do that again.